Hi everyone. Let me first just wait for people to join. Okay, I see people are starting to join. Hi everyone. Hi Deepak. Hi Abhishek. Hi everyone. Good evening, good morning. Hi Navid. Hi Brag. Hi everyone. So today is going to be a really interesting session. We have Nitin from Australia who's going to be joining us, who is a physiotherapist. So I think this is really important because I think a lot of you guys, are aspiring cricketers or even, play other sports, or I think these are things you should know in general. So I see Nitin has joined, so let's just add him in. Okay.
Hey, how are you?
Good, Roshni. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Pretty early, but pretty well.
Yeah, it must be what, 8 o'clock for you?
7:30.
7:30. Oh, it's very late here in Melbourne, so it's the opposite
Yeah,
end of the scale.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad I figured out how to do the Instagram Live. It's my
So
first time on it.
it's your first time. I'm glad it's your first time
Yeah,
with me
just
then.
still figuring out how Instagram works. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, yep, yep.
Perfect.
So why don't we
Perfect.
first start off, talking about how this quarantine has been going for you? So, I think
Yeah,
now the conditions there are much better where you are allowed to like freely move around, but how has it
yeah.
been?
Yeah, we've been really, really lucky
Yeah.
in Australia. So we had a bit of a spike about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And they locked everything down, but they didn't close down essential services. So
Yeah.
doctors, physios, hospitals, everything else was obviously still open.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but they closed schools and they closed all like shopping areas and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But our cases dropped significantly. So as of tomorrow, not tomorrow, as of Monday, everything's going back to normal. So
Okay.
so yeah, for me personally, look, I've still been working, so it hasn't
Yeah.
stopped. It's actually
Hasn't stopped for
been
you. Yeah.
busier than ever, busier
Yeah.
than ever. So,
Exactly.
yeah, it hasn't
Definitely.
stopped, which I'm really grateful about because a lot of people have lost their jobs and a lot of people are out of
Yeah.
work. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we've been really lucky. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
That's really
Yeah,
good. So now
yeah,
before we kind of start the talks, why don't you talk about,
mm,
that whole cricket and physiotherapy, how your journey
sure.
was and how you're the
Yeah.
cricket physio now.
Yeah. So obviously, being Indian, cricket's sort of in my blood.
Yeah.
So I was playing. I guess my story is I was trying to play district level cricket, which is the level below state cricket in
Yeah.
Australia,
Yeah.
and I damaged my back pretty badly.
Okay.
So, and that we can go into that a bit later. But I had
Yeah.
surgery after that, and after I had surgery, I was really, really bad, really bad. So I had,
Yeah.
shocking pain down my leg and, couldn't walk from here to the bathroom. I was that
Oh
bad.
wow.
So I had to sort of figure out a way not only to get myself out of that, but
Hmm.
to get back to playing cricket.
Yeah.
And that became my motivation. So I pretty much went to all the best physios around Melbourne and thought, this is pretty cool. Like, how good would it be to do this for other people?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was sort of my inspiration, and that became my journey. So I started up this clinic, which I'm actually sitting at right now. So yeah, and then I
This late
decided, well,
too?
what's that?
Even this late?
Yeah, I was just finishing off some work, so
Oh
and I
wow.
thought I just may as well stay here.
Yeah.
So yeah. So then I started up this clinic, and then I started working with one of the district teams here,
Okay.
and I thought, why not start the cricket physio and just start to see a lot of the cricketers in the area. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what became my journey. It's still new. It's only about a year old,
Okay.
but it's going really well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. So I mean, were you born and raised in Australia or did you move from
No,
India?
no, no. I was born in India. So
Okay.
yeah, I was born in Punjab. So yeah, मैं हिंदी बोलता हूँ, पंजाबी बोलता हूँ, everything. So don't be fooled by the
At what
Australian.
age did you move to Australia then?
I was six years old. So my
Okay, so
parents
pretty
moved
young.
here.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I was a baby. So I did all my schooling here and obviously my university here. And
Yeah.
I still go back from time to time, but
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
mean, luckily you're at a country where cricket is existent. Like I'm in America, so I mean, we have some cricket, but obviously not at any level like Australia. So
You know
definitely.
something? American fans tend to be bigger fans of cricket than people in Australia because I think when you have something, you take it for granted a little bit.
Maybe.
But in America, it's so rare. So all the friends that I've got that live in the States, they're much more cricket mad than
Oh,
like my
really?
Australian friends. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like a full-blown American. I've been born and raised here. So, and I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, I get called cricket freak a lot. So maybe that's true.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So now going back to kind of physiotherapy, so what are the most kind of common injuries that you see? And are there ways to prevent it for, aspiring cricketers or especially people who are training? Because I've seen so many instances where, players before a big tournament have gotten injured from just practicing and things like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the biggest injuries that I see are mostly fast bowlers. So
Yeah.
obviously, fast bowlers when they bowl, there's going to be 7 times or 8 times body weight that goes through the front leg.
Yep.
Fast bowling is not a natural, normal movement. So there's lots of what we call extension and rotation. And our spine, in fact, I'll show you something.
Okay.
Here we go. I've got you a spine as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We're
Our
all prepared.
spine is really only meant to go this way and this way. It's not really supposed to twist, yeah?
Okay.
So bowlers that have a lot of twisting in their actions are often the ones that break down. The other thing I see, especially in amateur cricket, not in international cricket as much, but local cricket, club cricket, semi-professional cricket,
Yeah.
where guys or girls, they're just not conditioned enough. So it'll be cricket season starts in 2 or 3 weeks, and they'll be like, let's go to the nets and, let's bowl and let's do it 3 or 4 times this week. And the body needs a certain period of time to adapt to the load you need to put through it. So the biggest things I see is back injuries in fast bowlers just because they don't have the graduated sort of bowling progress.
Yeah.
At the elite level, these days, they obviously play a lot of cricket. So it's just sometimes, when you're playing test matches on flat pitches and bowlers, like, look at a guy like Paddy Cummins, how much force goes through his action when
Exactly.
he bowls and bowling on flat pitches again and again and again. It's just a matter of time before the spine breaks down, no matter how strong you are, unless you've got absolutely everything perfect. And at the elite level, they have pretty much 99% of the things down pat perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So now if we go on to kind of the back pain, because I did get a lot of fans, asking about that, because that's something, especially when you're practicing, whether it be a batsman or bowler, that also becomes, very common that we see. Like I've seen a lot of players. I think Bhuvneshwar Kumar was also, out of the World Cup because of the back pain that he had.
Yeah.
So what are some
Yeah.
things, that you've seen, things that have caused kind of
Yeah.
back pain and how it can be prevented as well?
Okay, so stress fractures is the biggest thing. The stage before stress fractures we call a stress reaction. So what that basically means is if I had a bone and I kept it, if you take my finger, for example, if I keep punching my finger again and again and again and again, eventually I will cause a reaction in there where there's some swelling in the bone. Yeah, that's the initial stage when you hear in international cricket, so-and-so Mitchell Starc has a stress reaction, so he's going to sit out for X amount of weeks. That's not a fracture. That's just the initial signs of a reaction. Sometimes that's not even painful. Sometimes they only pick that up on a scan, which they do precautionary.
Yeah.
But at local level, often bowlers, and I was the same. I'm sure some people that are watching this as well, they go to training, they bowl, their back hurts, and they have 2 or 3 days rest, and the back gets better, but then they go bowl again, and the back hurts, and it gets better. I was doing that as well when I was 18, 19, 20, and I damaged my back doing that because I didn't know that I had a little stress fracture in there.
Okay.
So often bowling through pain is the biggest mistakes that guys and girls can make. Because especially in the age groups of 16 to 22, 23, the spine is really, really, really vulnerable.
Yeah.
And you can't ignore back pain. And what we get taught is if somebody comes in with lower back pain and they're 16 to 22, we have to assume that they've got some sort of stress reaction unless we can prove otherwise. So I'd say to people that have back pain, don't ignore it. It's not one of those things that you know, oh yeah, it'll be fine. I'll rest for 2 or 3 days and go. There has to be something wrong for you to have back pain. Now, mechanically, the biggest problems I see is stiffness. As Indians, essentially, we have not been gifted with the best flexibility genetics.
Okay, yeah.
I must say.
I know.
Most of the Indian guys I know, like, they can't touch their toes. You know, the hips are tight. It's just genetically not in our blood to be flexible. And I can say that because I'm the same. I had to work on it like crazy to try and get back bowling again. So
Yeah.
I'd say that and also we've been taught to ignore things a lot. We've also been taught to be like, okay, if you're in pain, just get through it. You'll be fine.
Exactly.
You'll be fine.
Exactly.
And I didn't know that, you know, when I was 19, 20, that I could go to a physio and I could do all this and, you know, someone could analyze my action, someone could help fix that. And now we have all those resources available even online. Today, I was working with a fast bowling coach. If people are watching, if you check my Instagram story, you'll see it. I've been working with a fast bowling coach as well. So when I do the rehab, I transfer somebody across to a fast bowling coach who does all the little action analysis to make sure there's no excessive load on the spine. So that's probably the biggest things that I see, Rosh, to answer your question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can kind of tell that as well. I feel like I need to come to Australia to see you as well because I've been
You got some back pain as well?
I know the stiffness thing because I've been doing a lot more like Pilates to help with that. But yeah, definitely.
Do you play cricket?
Huh?
Do you play cricket?
I play like almost like gully cricket style, like not really professional or anything, for fun. Yeah. Anytime I get a bowler to bowl to me, I will bat.
Yeah.
I'm not bowling though. Yeah.
You don't like bowling? No wonder Virat Kohli is your favorite player.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I'm more into like batting, so I understand, you know, batsmen more than I do bowlers, but I'm trying to learn how bowling works. So definitely.
Yeah.
Now, what are some kind of fitness, you know, principles that are there and that people can kind of take up, you know, especially when they're at that younger age, or things they can do, especially now during this quarantine? You know, what are some important fitness things to help with the body and maybe to even help prevent injuries, you know, before they happen?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I'm just trying to work out how deep to go into that answer. I think let's start at the basics.
Okay.
Using a role model really helps. Like your role model, Virat Kohli, for example. He's the best role model of the sort of fitness that you need to not just play elite cricket, but any kind of professional, semi-professional level cricket. So if there's guys or girls watching this that want to get to the elite level, use Virat Kohli as an example. Look at the way he runs, his sprinting speed, the speed in his legs, the power in his legs. There's not many athletes that can, you know, dive and jump and leap the way that he does. So the first thing I'd say is running. Now, most guys and girls, especially fast bowlers, they normally pick up running pretty quickly. It's a very natural thing to pick up. But building the kilometers in your legs so your body can tolerate that, that's the first thing. So I look at it in a few components. One is cardiovascular fitness. So that's how much your heart can tolerate. So you can train that with running, with cycling. Best way to do that is through high intensity interval training. Now, there used to be a time where bowlers used to just run laps slowly around the oval again and again and again and again. But if you think about the way cricket works, there's not many times where you have to run 5 or 6 kilometers slowly. Yeah. It's always, if you're a bowler, it's the burst to the crease to bowl. If you're a batsman, sprinting to swing. If you're a fielder, you're running maybe 50 meters, 60 meters, sprinting to get the ball. So it doesn't really make sense to do the slow kind of runs around the oval. So the way that I like to approach it with the guys and girls that I see is through high intensity interval programs. So that's, 30 or 40 seconds of your absolute max, and then you have a rest for about that same time. And then you go again, and then you have a rest. Now, it doesn't matter if that's running, if that's cycling, if that's rowing, whatever you like to do for that day, that's okay. It's more the impact it has on your heart and your lungs.
Yeah.
That'll be the first thing. The second thing is strengthening. So we like our fast bowlers to be able to squat and deadlift about 1.5 times their body weight.
Okay.
So, for example, I weigh about 80 kilograms. So for me, I'd want to be able to squat and deadlift 120 kilograms, right, at a bare minimum. Now, we have guys and girls that can do beyond that, but we sort of use that as a bit of a baseline measurement of the strength we want people to be at. Now, when I say this, I don't want people to go into the gym tomorrow and try and squat 120, 130, or whenever the gyms open up. It's a build-up thing, obviously, but we build people up to the point that they can tolerate that. Because if your legs are strong, look at the Australian fast bowlers. Some of those guys, look at Mitchell Johnson or Brett, look at their glutes. So their buttock muscles are so well developed that their spine doesn't take as much load because their hips and their glutes kind of help share some of that load. So strength would be the second thing. The other thing from a strengthening point of view is how much core strength bowlers are doing. So, you know, we get our guys to do lots and lots of core strength work, and most bowlers will know how important that is. The third category is the flexibility, which we spoke about. Now, the biggest area to add flexibility, the biggest area, if I could pick one area, it would be the hips. So most bowlers have really stiff hips, and they pull up the next day after bowling with really stiff hips. So getting into some yoga type movements, getting into some stretching for the hips is absolutely crucial. And then if I could pick a second area, I'd say the upper back.
Yeah.
Now, the mistake that most bowlers make is they try and stretch out the lower back. You know, you see bowlers and they'll lie on the floor and they'll become stretching their lower back, and stretching the lower back is not what we want to do. We want to make sure everything else is flexible so the lower back doesn't take any pressure. So stretching the hips and stretching the thoracic spine or the upper back would be the two biggest areas if I could sort of offer to the guys watching. Yeah.
Definitely. So now if we kind of touch on to batting and bowling, so we'll start with batting first. So how can, you know, sports medicine, you know, the things that you know from your knowledge of physiotherapy kind of work to help improve, you know, batsmen and batting?
Yeah, so I guess if we think about what batsmen need to do, let's not even worry about the high fitness things for a moment. Let's just even talk about something simple like hydration. Now, we know if you're dehydrated, your reaction time actually drops. Now, imagine if you're on 99, not out, right? And it's a 40-degree day. In Australia, we use Celsius, so I'll say 40-degree Celsius day, and you're very dehydrated. And you're a split second, you get a Yorker and you're a split second late on playing a shot and you get bowled for 99, right? That could be because, you know, you weren't hydrated enough. Your reaction time might be that much slower. So if we start at the very basics, if you're a batsman, you want to make sure that mentally and physically you're going to the crease really hydrated and feeling really, really fresh, right? The other thing we've been sort of researching and looking at is the concept of eye dominance. Now, a lot of coaches will tell batsmen to look out of their left eye so they don't fall over as they play a shot. Now, that's not really kind of my specialty, but it's a developing area in the research field of eye dominance. But I guess from a physio point of view, we'd be more looking at, can batsmen maintain concentration? Can they maintain strength and endurance in their muscles so they can play a long innings? Now, a lot of guys get tired and play a bad shot and throw the innings away. You know, you see guys that get off to a beautiful start, they'll get to 30, 40, 50, and they'll look $1 million, and then they'll just play a lazy shot and get out. How often does that happen? Yeah, and often that comes down to just fitness, and then our poor fitness. When we're exhausted, we play poorer shots, and our shot selection goes out the window. So cardiovascular fitness is a big one for batsmen, and then sprint speed, because a lot of good coaches that I've worked with really reinforce running between wickets. And it's one thing you see India do really well now, or better now than they used to do, is run between wickets. And I think as a batsman, if nothing else is working your way, but you can drop one and run a quick single, that is such a good skill to have, and it's such an invaluable skill to just get down the other end. But for you to be able to do that, you need the technical skills of being able to play the ball really late, but then also you need the physical attributes of sprint speed. It's no good trying to run a quick single if you're the slowest person in the team and you're going to get run out doing that. So I'd say for batsmen, short 20-meter sprints is you want to have the quickest 20-meter sprint in your team. If we lined every single person up in your team and you want to be the best batsman in your team, you want to have the best 20-meter sprint there. Because I can guarantee you, Virat Kohli, out of the Indian team, he would have the quickest 20 or 30-meter sprint out of all the guys there. So, and there's a reason why he's so good. You watch him, sometimes he might be in a bit of trouble and he'll just drop it and get down the other end. So, yeah, that would be the biggest thing that I could suggest to batsmen. But obviously, batting, you know, you can be a little bit bigger and you can be a little bit unfit and still be okay as a batsman if you have a brilliant eye.
Yeah.
Bowling, which I'm sure we'll get to, is another sort of ball game completely.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's, you know, the next thing. I mean, one, the aspects of how you can help bowler, and let's also talk about, you know, for pace bowlers, you know, how they can help, you know, speed up that pace as well without, you know, getting injured as well.
Yeah, so increasing pace is a tricky area. It's a commonly debated area. There's some principles that we know for sure,
Yeah.
like bowling with a braced front leg. So essentially when bowlers landing with the leg out very, very straight.
Yeah.
The other thing is how delayed the back arm is, the bowling arm is. The quicker that arm comes through, or the earlier that arm comes through, the slower the bowler is going to be. So if you look at a guy like Mitchell Starc, if you look at his bowling action, his back arm will be much, much more delayed compared to some of the medium pace bowlers. Wrist position and how bowlers flick the wrist.
Yeah.
Those sort of things can be worked on. Those sort of things can be trained. Now, there are fast bowling coaches out there that focus specifically on this stuff. If people are watching, I would say the best book to get your hands on is the Fast Bowlers Bible by Ian Pont.
Okay.
If you don't have, I know like, you know, some of the people watching might be in United States, some might be in, if you don't have access to a fast bowling coach, order that book or have a look if you can get that book online, because that book has pretty much everything from an action checkpoints point of view that you can do to improve your pace. And then most bowlers will be able to improve their pace just by getting stronger and doing exercises that build explosive speed.
Yeah.
Because if you think about fast bowling is a very explosive movement. So if people are in the gym and they're doing very slow exercises just to build size, that might not help them release the ball faster. So bowlers really have to look at what they can do to build power in their muscles. So doing things like medicine ball slams, you know, getting those balls and slamming them into the wall or slamming them into the floor to build power in the body, that helps pace development.
Yeah.
And then from an injury point of view, we've already, I guess, spoken about the mobility, so the hips and the upper back,
Yeah.
Key core strength and glute strength, and getting in the gym and doing those sort of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did get some questions from some fast bowlers about like knee pain as well. So are
Yeah.
there things that you can prevent? I mean, obviously it's probably because, you know, their technique when they're practicing, something's off. But what is something they
Sure.
can do, you know, about knee pain, either to prevent it, or if they do start feeling any pain, what should they do?
Sure. So my experience with knee pain is that often the knee is not the problem. The knee is where the pain is, but the knee might not be where the problem is.
Okay.
So often, if you think about it for a second, if I was to ask you to stand on one leg, right? When you stand on one leg, you've got force going through your hip, your knee, and your ankle. Now, if your ankle was to roll in or your foot was to roll in, that's going to also have an effect at your knee. And that's also going to have an effect at your hip, which is going to have an effect at the back. So normally what we do for people with knee pain is we get them to do a single leg squat, right? And if they can squat on one leg and we see their knee sort of roll in or twist in, that tells us there's probably something going on in the foot or the hip.
Okay.
So think of the knee as like, you know, it gets sandwiched in the middle of the other two.
Yeah.
So the first area that I always look at is the foot.
Okay.
So bowlers want to make sure that they've got very supportive bowling shoes. Now, I get bowlers that send me videos, you know, in India mostly, and they're bowling either barefoot or they're bowling with no shoes on. Now, I understand that sometimes they might be in a situation where they might not have access to amazing bowling shoes and things like that. And that's okay, but at the very best, if guys can try and get their hands on, I'd rather people spend money on good quality shoes than, you know, buying the best quality pads or the best quality gloves, or because those pads are going to be great, but the foot, having a good quality shoe is going to save you from so many injuries. So if there is one thing I would encourage people to spend money on and to not save money on, it's getting the best pair of shoes, because it's going to support the rest of your body. So that'd be the first thing, foot rolling in or the foot collapsing in. And often if bowlers are doing that in their front leg, when their front leg hits the ground, if the foot rolls in, that's going to cause knee problems for sure. So what I would suggest is get somebody to, and I'm assuming that your knee hurts when you're bowling. If your knee hurts when you're bowling, get someone to video your bowling action and have a look what position your foot's in, or what happens to your foot when you release it or when you land on that leg. If your foot's not the problem, then it's normally weakness at the hip.
Okay.
So if you've got hip weakness, your knee will roll in as well. So if the foot's not the problem, then strengthening the hip would be where I would go to for sure. There are taping methods as well for people to explore. There's a taping method. In fact, on my Instagram page, I'll publish in the next few weeks some taping methods that I use to get bowlers through, if they have to get through a game, we can tape it so the knee doesn't hurt. Now, it's not going to fix the problem, but it will get the bowlers through that game or that training session. So I'll put some of those up for people to have a look.
So we've touched on, batting, bowling. So how about fielding? What are some ways, you can, one, do some drills to become a better fielder, make sure you don't prevent any injuries? Because sometimes when I see, cricketers just like diving and doing crazy things, it's crazy how the injuries aren't as much common, obviously at that international level. So when people are just playing gully cricket or just cricket, on the weekends, what are some things that they can focus on?
I'll tell you an easy one for most people that they can implement. Now, most people who probably follow your channel, they probably do some sort of exercise apart from cricket. Maybe they don't go to the gym. Maybe they might just do some home exercises. Maybe they might do some running. Now, most of the time when we train in a very front and back type movement. So squats, lunges, it's very front and back. Now, if you think of fielding, it's very side to side, right? Often, if you see people diving, they're not diving front and back, they're diving to the left and they're diving to their right. I want people to think about the exercises they do at the gym or the exercises they do at home. How many exercises are actually side to side exercises? Probably not many. Most people, when they lunge even, they'll lunge just front and back, front and back. So the first thing that I'd get people to consider is try and make your exercises side to side. So rather than doing a lunge straight up and down, do a lunge to your left, do a lunge to your right, do a side lunge. Rather than practicing jumping forward and back, practice jumping left and right. That will help condition your muscles to move sideways, because moving sideways is very different to moving forward and back. One of the best exercises that people can do is box jumps, but not box jumps forward and back, box jumps to their left and box jumps to their right. I can guarantee you the guys at the top level are doing box jumps to the left and right. The fact that guys can dive full body length to their left and to their right and hold on to these unbelievable catches, it's because they're doing that. They're probably doing that whilst holding some weights in their hand as well. So that would be the biggest thing for fielding, is improve your side-to-side movements and include those exercises at least twice a week in the gym. And then other than that, Virat Kohli talked about in an interview about what he did to change his fielding. And he talked about Olympic lifting as one of his main things. I don't know whether you've seen, you would have seen that. I'm sure.
He talked about Olympic lifting. He talked about how his conditioning coach sort of, made him use just a bar for a while. And that kind of changed, the whole fitness of the Indian team as well. So,
For sure. So the thing about Olympic lifting is it's all about power and speed. So I would encourage guys to explore some of those exercises rather than going to the gym and just trying to lift as heavy weights as you can. Think about side-to-side movements, think about some Olympic lifting type movements. And it's worthwhile talking to someone where you live who knows a little bit about it. I do not encourage people to go to the gym and just watch a YouTube video and try some Olympic lifting. Try and talk to someone who has some experience, because it's an easy way to hurt yourself as well to do it wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I did get a lot of questions kind of about nutrition versus, if there's specific nutritions that a fast bowler should have versus, a batsman. So tell us a little bit about nutrition.
Yeah, I had a question about this today as well. I think people need to understand what their ideal body is. Let's think of it like actors, right? Think of these Bollywood actors. Think of, say like a Hrithik Roshan, for example, right? If he's got a movie coming up, he knows the exact body that he needs to be in for that role. If he needs to be a bit bigger, if he needs to be a bit bulkier, he knows what body he needs. If he needs to be skinnier, he knows what body he needs. So I would encourage guys and girls to say, okay, I'm a fast bowler, or I'm a batsman, or I'm a wicket keeper. What's the ideal body shape for that role? Now, most fast bowlers, it's going to be fairly lean, and it's going to be flexible. You don't want to have massive amounts of muscle mass on you. Take Shane Watson, for example. Shane Watson was one of the most muscular guys, in the Australian team, but he used to get injuries all the time because he almost had too much muscle on him.
Yeah.
So fast bowlers need to look at, okay, who are the best fast bowlers who have lasted the longest? Did you watch that interview with James Anderson and Dale Steyn recently?
Recently, was it alive or?
I'll link it. I'll link it to you. You'll enjoy it. If you look at guys like Dale Steyn, you look at guys like James Anderson, they're not massively built muscular guys, but they're very lean and they have a very low percentage of body fat in them. Yeah. So it's important for people to work out, okay, if I'm 100 kilos and this is my body shape, how do I get to that point? Once you know what your end goal is, you can reverse engineer from there. Yeah. You can work out how many calories you're intaking and develop a plan of how to get to that ideal shape. If you're a batsman, you can afford to be a little bit heavier. You can afford to be a little bit stronger because you need to clear boundaries. It's all about 2020 cricket these days. So you might find that, okay, I'm actually really skinny and I'm not able to hit the ball very far. Maybe I need to get a little bit bigger. So the first thing I'd encourage people to do is get a piece of paper and write down what is the ideal body shape for the role that you want to execute. If you're an all-rounder, try and model yourself on somebody, right? Look at a guy like Ben Stokes, super fit, super muscular. He can manage batting, bowling, the whole lot because of the fitness level he has. So model yourself on somebody professional and then work out, okay, how much would they weigh? How much body fat percentage do they have? Where do I sit and how do I get to there? Once you know where you've got to get to, then you have to know how many calories you're intaking that day. Yeah. So I would suggest people download an app called MyFitnessPal.
Yeah.
So MyFitnessPal allows you to track pretty much everything, even Indian food, right? So I eat, dal, roti, everything, but I can track all that still using MyFitnessPal. So one of the hardest things about eating Indian food is it's hard to know what you're missing out and what you're not getting. Also, it tends to be very carbohydrate heavy. Mm-hmm. Guys will eat 5-6 rotis and naans and it's very carbohydrate heavy. So if you're trying to eat down, it's not the best option. Yeah. So understanding the amount of calories that are in certain foods and building up your own education would be the biggest thing for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now obviously the mindset, I think cricket is more of a mental sport than physical. So let's kind of talk about that mindset, how to improve on that.
Yeah, so look, that's something that I'm continuously trying to learn about as well. Now, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a mindset expert. I just work with guys that are, at the top of their game. And I read a lot of books on the topic. So I guess I can sort of share what I've learned from people that I've worked with and what I've seen. So the first thing that I'd suggest to guys and girls watching is start to read books. Start to read books on mindset. If you understand how the brain works, you'll understand why we make the sort of decisions that we sometimes do. Yeah. So understanding brain physiology, brain anatomy, it sounds scary and it sounds complex, but it's really not, because every decision we make in our day is pretty much controlled by what goes on in our brains. So understanding brain science is the biggest thing. And then pretty much finding the best player in your team and trying to ask lots of questions and saying, hey, what does that person do that I don't do? Why are they at the top of their game? Why am I not there? And that's not to say that you have to be competitive. It's not about being competitive. It's not about, trying to be better than that person. Because at the end of the day, as you know, you're only competing with yourself, not anybody else. Yeah. You're more using those people for inspiration. You're more using those people for guidance to be like, hey, that person can do it, so I should feel like I can do it as well. So learning from pretty much every person you meet. And I would also say, don't make it only cricket. Don't make it only cricket. If you meet someone who's a really good, cook, right? Even if you're not interested in cooking, learn about what makes them a really good cook. If you meet someone who's a really good dancer, learn about what makes them a really good dancer, because the skill doesn't matter. It's the mental process to get really good at something that is exactly the same, whether it be cricket, whether it be cooking, whether it be dance. So that would be the first thing that I'd encourage people to do, because I notice young people, if you talk about cricket, they all want to listen. But if they meet someone who's a really good dancer and that person, if they don't dance themselves, they're very quick to be like, oh, that's not for me. I don't do that. I'll do that. But try and learn, because sometimes I've actually found I've learned more from outside of cricket than what I've learned from inside of cricket.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be the sort of the biggest tips. If I could recommend some books, I would say read a book called The Magic of Thinking Big.
Okay.
That's my favorite book. That will help you in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
And then the second book that I'd recommend to people is The Compound Effect.
Yeah.
Let me give you a quick summary of that. If I gave you $1 million right now, or I gave you 1 cent that doubled every single day for 1 month, what would you pick?
1 cent, right? Probably the 1 million. That's
One-
1 cent for a month, right?
1 cent for a month,
Every-
but doubles every day.
Every day doubles.
The second day you get 2 cents, and third day you get 4 cents, and so far it doubles for a month. Which one would you pick?
I guess the million, because I can't do math like that.
Yeah, well, really, if you picked the million, great, you have $1 million. But if you pick the 1 cent that doubles, at the end of the month, you would have $10 million.
Seriously? I'm going to have to
At the
check
end of the-
right after this interview.
Check. At the end of the first week, you would have 64 cents. At the end of the second week, you would have $150. But at the end of the fourth week, you'd have $10 million. So that's the power of the compound effect, which basically means that you don't have to start with anything really, really big. If you want to get fit, or if you want to get strong, or you want to learn something new, don't go out there and be like, I have to do everything straight away. Just pick the smallest possible thing that you can improve on, because one good thing will compound to another, to another, to another. And that's what I find the best guys tend to do. The best guys in any team, they're never satisfied. It's like, how can I get 1% better? You know, if you look at a guy, again, like Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, you know, these guys are at the top of their game, but I guarantee you the minute that they say to themselves, oh, I'm great, I'm at the top of my game, their performance will drop. They're constantly looking for, how can I get 1% better? How can I get 1% better? So that mindset is probably the biggest thing that I'd encourage people watching to have.
Yeah, no, I really like that.
Would you agree with that? Is that sort of...
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, obviously, I think that's one of the things. I mean, that's why Virat Kohli is so great, is because, you know, even if you look at him now, he's like the #1 player, but yet he's so, you know, down to earth. He's always trying to improve. He will still practice for, you know, hours and hours and everything to improve, you know, get fitter. Even like when I've seen him in person, stayed at the same hotel, like he would always be at the gym, you know? So that is something definitely, it makes sense. It's a good analogy as well.
For sure. So that's why people value performance, but I'd say don't worry about valuing performance. Let that take care of itself. Just value the way that you can get that a little bit better. Value the mindset of constant improvement. That way, you can only be upset at yourself if you're not going in with that mindset of constant improvement, not if you fail on the field. Failure on the field doesn't matter at all. That's not, it does matter at the end of the day, professional level, but if we get focused on failure on the field, we're not going to get anywhere except for down ourselves. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things that I see, you know, especially happen in America, where people are just focusing on scoring a 50 or a century and that making them a great player. They don't focus on, you know, the things that kind of help you to get there. So, yeah.
Exactly. So let me tell you another story. So one of the best players that I've worked with, his mindset is he doesn't care whether he makes a duck or whether he makes 100. His emotions do not rise, whether it's a duck or they do not drop. They do not rise if he makes 100, or they don't drop if he makes a duck, because he just doesn't value that. Yeah. He doesn't value the score that he makes. He values the effort he puts in training. So his emotions rise if he has a bad training session. His emotions rise if he, you know, if he doesn't give 100% training. What happens on the field, it does not affect him emotionally at all. And I find that absolutely unbelievable. And I said, how do you do that? How do you control it? He says, it's just not my value system. I do not value it. I value what the work I put in and the effort I put in, not the score. So if you don't value something, then it doesn't mess with your emotions. Let me tell you another story. This one's for students at school. Yeah. So there's this great book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. That's another one of the top books that I'd recommend people read. In fact, take everything I said back. I'd say Mindset's number one book out of the lot. So the book Mindset basically talks about the same thing, that when we praise kids for being very smart, they actually give up a lot quicker than if we praise them for working hard. Because if I say to you, if you were 5 years old and I say to you, Roshi, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart, you're so smart, when you're 9 years old and you sit a hard maths test and you find it really hard, your mindset's going to be like, oh my God, he's going to think I'm not smart. But if I said to you, Roshni, you're so hardworking, you're so hardworking, you're so hardworking, and you sit that same hard maths test, it's not going to affect you that much because you've been praised for being hardworking. So you're going to just do that, which you've been praised for. Yeah. So it's just having those two value systems, I think, is probably the biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, definitely really important. So I have some questions that I got from some people. So Chirag says he plays tennis and he gets back pain. So would you suggest for him to go and first get it checked out? He was asking for exercises, basically.
Okay, so if he plays tennis and he gets back pain, obviously we need to know a little bit more detail about when it hurts. Is it in a particular stroke? Is it when he's running in a particular direction? Yeah. So I'm just going to assume, for the sake of, unless he's online now, I'm just going to assume he plays tennis and his back hurts after. Now, again, tennis is a very side-to-side movement. So the first thing I'd say is he needs to check the flexibility of his, like we talked about, the flexibility of his hips, and then checking how much strength he's got on his single leg. So I'd ask him to do a test. I'd ask him, what was his name?
Chirag.
I'd ask Chirag, can you stand up from your chair just using one leg? So if you just stood on your right leg, can you get up from your chair just on one leg? Can you do that 5 times on your right and 5 times on your left? If you can't do that, and if you lose your balance doing that, you have a strength problem in your hips, and you would benefit from getting stronger there for sure. If the pain is sharp and it hurts him at nighttime and he can't sleep, then he needs to get a scan. Now, an X-ray is generally not that helpful. So I just want to make that point again, because I get a lot of messages from young guys saying, I've had an X-ray, I've had an X-ray, I've had an X-ray. An X-ray will only show a really bad fracture. Most of the time, people don't have a really bad fracture. They have a stress fracture, which doesn't show up on X-rays early on. So don't even bother getting an X-ray. Go and see a good physio or, a good doctor who knows what they're talking about. And if you're going to get a scan, you may as well get an MRI scan. Yes, it's more expensive, but getting an X-ray, you're wasting your money. It will not show us or tell us anything. Yeah.
Definitely. So another question that I had. So Akshay said how to deal with frequent injuries that comes during training. So would it be more of that, looking at your fitness and looking at, what's going on kind of thing? What are some things you would tell him?
Yeah, so if there's frequent injuries, now obviously it depends on if it's the same area getting injured. If it's the same area, if it's say a frequent hamstring injury that happens again and again and again, there's something going on in the body that's causing more pressure on the hamstring. So let me give you an example. I had a guy who's done 3 hamstring strains in one season, right? And everyone kept focusing on his hamstring, but it wasn't really the hamstring that was the problem. It was the position of his pelvis, his hips. His hips were very tilted like that. So because they were tilted like that, it put the hamstring on stretch. So until we fixed the position of the pelvis, no matter how strong he made the hamstring, it just kept going again and again. So if it's the same area, there is a reason why your body's putting more load on the area. If it's different areas that are falling apart, maybe it's time to think about retiring. No, I'm just kidding. If it's different areas falling apart, your body's not conditioned. It's as simple as that. So there is an aspect of conditioning that you're missing. You're not either training the way we spoke about. You're not training for all the demands of what you're required to do. You're probably not training at all. You're probably just rocking up to games and playing. It doesn't work like that. If you want your body to last, you have to build up your tolerance at training. And it doesn't happen overnight. You can't decide, it's the off season and now it's summer, I'm going to go to training now and put 100% in. It never stops. If you stop for a long period of time and you come back, you're going to get injured. So you have to keep some sort of maintenance up with your body. So probably amateur cricketers or not sort of professional level cricketers, that's the reason they break down a lot, because they have these big gaps of training and then they decide, it's a sunny day today, let's go and play cricket. And then they'll do way too much, 2-3 hours, and then they'll break down. So.
Yeah, I've seen that happen with friends who just completely, they're like out of it after.
And then they can't walk for 3 days, and it's just,
Okay, let's do some rapid fire with you. So who is your
Sure.
favorite cricketer? That's not Virat Kohli.
Dale Steyn.
CL Stan, okay.
Yeah.
India or Australia?
India.
Okay. Ashes or an IPL match?
Ashes.
Yeah. Favorite food?
Credit job.
Okay. Favorite injury to treat. So is there something that like you just love, you know, and when you get a case of that come in?
Thanks for asking that. Absolutely. So obviously with my two back surgeries, anyone who's having disc pain or nerve pain in the buttock, sciatic pain, that's my favorite to treat because I can almost feel it when people tell me, oh, disc pain, like I can feel it's happened to me. So yeah, definitely nerve pain or back related pain for sure. Yeah.
Favorite place in Australia?
Uh, hmm. Yeah, look, I'd have to say Melbourne. I've been to every other city in Australia, but I'd say Melbourne for me is number one. Beautiful cafes. I like the cold weather in Melbourne as well. So, yeah, Melbourne.
Yeah, I haven't been to Australia, so definitely need to come.
Definitely, Melbourne would be. Well, I'll be interested to see whether you pick Sydney or Melbourne as your is your favourite choice. We have this battle in Australia of Sydney versus Melbourne. And Sydney people think Sydney's the best, and Melbourne people think Melbourne's the best. So. Yeah.
Definitely.
Don't let me influence your choice, man.
Your favorite cheat meal?
My favorite cheat meal: pistachio ice cream.
Pistachio ice cream.
Has to be pistachio ice cream.
Definitely. Yeah. Favorite bubble tea flavor?
I don't drink bubble tea. You know the bubble tea has a little ball thing.
Yeah.
I just can't. So
See,
no
I hated
bubble.
it at first too. You gotta develop it.
I was so surprised when you drink in the straw and those little balls come in your mouth. And,
I remember my first glass, I threw it in the trash, and now I'm obsessed. So you just need to. I think you just need to try it a bit more, and you'll love it.
I think I'm still at that first phase of throwing it in the trash and never trying it again. So bubble tea is so popular. I'm sure it is in America too, but I tell you what, in Melbourne it's so popular. It's crazy.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's to come. I'm obsessed. Like it's like
you'll find a shop everywhere. Bubble tea shop.
Yeah, it sounds good.
What's your favorite bubble tea flavor?
Honestly, anything. I get like something new every time. I do like the coffee one, so I guess I get that more often, a coffee bubble tea, but any bubble tea. I'm sorry.
Anything. Yeah.
I had it like 3 times during this lockdown as well. I went like a month without it, and I was like, I can't do this anymore, and I went and got it.
So what flavor do you recommend? All right, I'll go and try one next week. What flavor do you recommend?
Maybe are you a coffee person?
Yeah, I love coffee.
So get a nice coffee with bubbles.
Okay, done. I'll get one and I'll send you a picture of whether I like it or not. Yeah.
I had the New Zealand media manager try it as well for the first time, and I got him a coffee once. He did like it. You know, coffee I feel like anyone can go with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an easy step to some of the more crazy flavors. Yeah.
Definitely. So what is one final tip you would give, to the viewers? Anything that you think is really important?
Look, probably I'm not a massive fan of final tips because often all the good stuff is in the past part of the interview. So I've had a bit of a think about it. So I'd say, look, the final tip would probably be look after your backs because I've had 2 back surgeries. I've damaged my back to the point that I had to put years to get my back right. Yeah. If your back is in pain right now, if your back hurts after you play cricket, if your back hurts after you play tennis, if your back hurts after you run, get it looked at, get it sorted, don't ignore it. Because if I can prevent one person from having surgery the way that I did and, destroying their cricket careers, then this interview would have been worth it. So if you need help, I'm happy to help you, but there's only so much that I can do from the other side of the world. You need to really find someone in your area that knows what they're doing or is willing to help you. But if there's nobody, then you need to put in your own research. Keep learning and keep studying. Don't just be kind of, accepting of the fact that my back hurts and it'll just be the way that it is. And, I'll do something else. Get it checked out and do something about it. So that's probably the best final tip that I can give because I just want to make sure that we look after anyone that has back pain. Yeah,
definitely. So what are some ways people can kind of just reach out to you, whether they have any
Yeah.
questions or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I'm always happy to take questions. The best way to contact me at the moment is through Instagram. So the Cricket Physio on Instagram, which I'm sure you'll link up there. I'm quite new to social media, so I do run quite a busy week with seeing clients. So I try and publish every now and again, but I do check it almost every day. So if you have a question, reach out to me there. But can I just say, you need to give as much information as possible. If you send a message that says, "Hi, I have back pain, please help," that doesn't really help. I can't help you with that. You have to give as much detail as possible. So some of the things that you need to give is, when does it hurt? What is the pain like? Exactly what makes it worse? Exactly what makes it better? If you can give me those 4 pieces of information, then we have something to work with. But if you message me and say, "Hi, my back hurts," there's not a lot I can do with, because I get those, there's not a lot I can do with those ones. If people want to book in an online session, message me on Instagram, and we can use Zoom to book in a session if someone's really struggling and they can't find anyone else to help them. I'm more than willing to help out. And look, I'm looking at spending some more time in India across the next few years. So if there's some guys in India out there that need a bit of help, send me a message. And once this lockdown's over, if the IPL goes ahead, fingers crossed, then I'll probably be down there at that time, and I'll have a bit of spare time then. So yeah, that would be the best way.
Well, then, hopefully, IPL happens and the borders are open. That's my only fear.
Absolutely. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, well, thank you so much. I mean, there's so much news that 100% almost that the test series in Australia will happen, India test. So hopefully it'll come to Australia then.
For sure. I think they've ruled out the Perth match, as in the Optus Stadium in Perth, but all the other stadiums looks like it's going to go ahead. But we just don't know yet whether there'll be crowds allowed or not. It might just be, it might be you have to watch from from TV. But having said that, football is really big in Australia. So have you come across AFL?
Have I come across what?
Australian football?
Like how are American? I came across Australian baseball yesterday, but not football yet.
Check out Australian rules football.
Okay.
It's an amazing sport. The athletes that play Australian rules football would be at the top of any athletic event. So
is it football, like European football or American football?
No. It's a different,
completely different.
It's Australian style football. So it's a combination of probably those two. It's like a mixture of soccer and a mixture of rugby, just all combined in one really action-packed sport. So that actually starts very soon back in Australia. Yeah. So we'll probably be able to test things there about, whether crowds are allowed or not allowed. And based on that, we'll know what will happen.
Exactly. Hopefully. Let's see what happens with cricket. Hopefully just something happens soon. That's like my only...
I know. I'm dying without it too.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Well, thank you so much. Hopefully you keep staying busy as well, but hopefully things go back to normal and we see some cricket and we'll get to, keep treating some cricketers as well.
Absolutely. And look, you're doing a great job keeping us all entertained whilst there's no cricket on TV. Because I know it's hard as well, to make the time. So I know it's 7:30 in the morning for you when you're doing an interview. So I just want people to know how much effort it takes to do social media, because I'm trying it and I'm not doing anything like you. I'm doing 1-minute videos and it's taking so much time and effort. So for you to do these interviews and for you to provide the content that you do, it's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication to do what you're doing. So well done to you on that. Keep it up.
No, thank you so much. So we'll definitely be talking soon. And probably we'll need to have a session with you at one point as well.
Anytime.
Well, thank you guys. Make sure you guys, I'll definitely link in, all the details for Nitin. And I know a lot of people asked some book recommendations, so I'll get that from you and link it as well so people can check out those books.
Sure thing. Absolutely.
Sounds good. So have a good evening for you.
Thank
try
you.
to be safe and hopefully, COVID goes away soon. So
Perfect.
bye everyone. Stay safe. Bye.
All right. See ya. Bye.